Yo, what is going on? We are live. Welcome to Sports Talk Monday. It is your boy GZTV. We have the NBA we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the top 25 players in the NBA, see how their teams are doing, and yeah, we'll go along with our day. We also have Kanye West Deluxe album reaction and review coming right after this, so stay tuned for that. We got 3 videos coming out today. Let's start the list off at number 25. We have Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz. Let's see here how he's doing. The Jazz. What record do the Jazz have? Do they play today? Crap. Come on now. What are they? Jazz are 8-5, so the Jazz are a really elite team. You know, Donovan Mitchell is playing really well. He's averaging 25 points a game. He's pretty much, the Jazz have a really good big three going on, leading to a 1-8 record, and he is the scorer of that big three. And I think there's one more member of the big three we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but at number 24, we have Chris Paul of the Phoenix Suns, and the Phoenix Suns have really gone on a run recently. Obviously Chris Paul's not the best scorer in the league, but he's definitely dishing the rock a whole lot and still putting up 15 or 16 points a game. I mean, if you look at how Chris Paul is doing this year, he's averaging 14.2 points, 4.3 rebounds, 10 assists. He's averaging a double-double in points and assists a game, and he's the best player on the Phoenix Suns. Like, all around, he is the best player on the Phoenix Suns. He's really helped them get to 9-3, and I'm really happy for what he's doing. Moving on to number 23, we're going a little faster this time. We're going to the Pacers. There's 2 really good guys on the Indiana Pacers. Sorry, we have Miles Turner, the big man. They're playing the Knicks tonight, and let me just say, okay, I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Crap. Let me go find their recent games, see how it's going for them. My fault. My apologies, everybody. They just came off a win against the Sixers, which is big time. Let's look at Miles Turner here. He's averaging 14, 8, and 1, which isn't incredible, but recently he's been playing really well. They're 6 and 8. They're still considered a pretty bad team in the NBA, but I mean Miles Turner is starting to pick it up, so they're starting to get a little better. Let's move on to the 22 spot. The best player on the Toronto Raptors, we have Fred VanVleet. He has been consistently in the top 5 for most of the year. That's something that he can be proud of for sure. Do the Raptors play today? Pretty much most NBA teams play today. I would say the Raptors are a mediocre team right now, but I mean, Fred VanVleet's averaging 19 points a game and 7 assists. I mean, he's doing quite a bit for this team. He's averaging 19, 5, and 7, which is really good for a guy at his position. He's a top 10 passer in the league, a top 30 scorer in the league. And crazy enough, he's a top 90 rebounder in the league, so that's pretty awesome. I mean, the Raptors are definitely a pretty mediocre team right now, but I think they could definitely pick it up with Siakam being back. They could definitely gain some momentum this season. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Fred VanVleet. Let's move on to number 21. I think this is the first time, surprisingly, I've seen this guy on the list all year. The team he's on is pretty bad. He is on the Timberwolves, but he is the best player on the Timberwolves. It is Karl Anthony Towns. Oh my gosh, he's playing really good this year, and people are not taking notice. He's a top 20 scorer and rebounder. I mean, 22, 9, and 3. He's also, surprisingly enough, a top 65 passer in the league at his position. He's a top 25 most efficient player in the league as well. He's definitely playing at an all-star level. Despite the Timberwolves not being a very good team, he's still putting up numbers. Crazy, he's not even the best scorer on the Timberwolves. I mean, the Timberwolves have develops a great scorer in Anthony Edwards, and obviously D'Lo can score when needed. I mean, not necessarily. He's kind of inconsistent this year. He's dealt with injuries, but I mean, the Timberwolves, I could see a turnaround later in the season, just not right now. They're a pretty bad team at the moment. Let's move on to number 20. We have of the Chicago Bulls. I believe he is the lone star for the Bulls this week. We have DeMar DeRozan. The Bulls are still a really, really good team in the NBA despite losing a couple times recently. But yeah, you have a top 10 scorer in DeMar DeRozan. You have a top 50 passer in DeMar DeRozan. You have a top 10 most efficient player in the league in DeMar DeRozan. The fact that he's averaging 26.1 really should speak to you. They just beat a pretty good Clippers team by 10 where he had 35, 7, and 5. Playing at a pretty high level, you know. Some of the other stars are kind of faltering, but DeMar DeRozan is here to say that this is his team. He's here to stay, Chicago, so do not worry about that. Moving on at number 19, this is the best player on the Jazz, and most people wouldn't like to think so. We're not going to talk about their record because we already did that for Donovan Mitchell, but we're going to talk about Rudy Gobert. All right, if my phone would load, we are going to talk about Rudy Gobert, the best rebounder in the NBA, a top 70 scorer, which is crazy for Rudy Gobert, and a top 15 player in efficiency. Rudy Gobert is very underrated. He's a really good player. The best rebounder in the league. Obviously, he's going to make it up here. I don't really have much else to say. We're not going to talk about the record too much again because we already talked about it. But next at number 18, we have. Let's see. Do they play tonight? Okay. He's on my favorite team. He is my favorite player in the NBA. He's playing on a pretty bad Celtics team right now. It is Jason Tatum. We have to deal with injuries. We're a pretty bad team right now for what we're given. Jason Tatum, he's a top 15 scorer, a top 30 rebounder. He's not the most efficient, but yeah. Do I have much else to say? Our team is definitely mediocre at best. No, it's not even mediocre. It's a bad team. I'm just going to say it right now. If they win tonight, that'd be a pretty big momentum change considering they're playing Cleveland again, and they just lost to Cleveland. And shout out to Dennis Schroeder, by the way. We're not going to talk about him on this list, obviously, but he's having a great season so far. Next, at number 17, the best player on a pretty bad team. We already talked about this team earlier. It is the Indiana Pacers. It is Domantas Sabonis. A top 10 rebounder in the league, a top 50 passer in the league, and a top 40 scorer. He's a top 40 most efficient player. He's top 50 in every single category, so what else do you need? He's a very solid player, averaging a double-double every game. They're playing New York tonight, who's a really good team, and man, if they could beat New York, that'd be pretty big. They're still going to be a bad team if they beat New York, but it'll prove something. Anyways, moving on to number 16. Speaking of New York here, let's go to this matchup. Speaking of New York, we have a guy from New York. He is the lone star in New York, coming in at number 16, I believe, is what we're on. Yeah, it's Julius Randle. He's on a good Knicks team, and he's a top 15 rebounder. He's a top 25 scorer. He's a top 35 passer. He's top 55-ish in efficiency. His rebounding, man, he's 6'8" and he grabs 10 boards a game. They've got centers on that team. You know what I mean? And he's leading them in rebounds. He's 6'8". That's awesome. You'd love to see that from Julius Randle for sure. But yeah, good Knicks team. RJ Barrett's definitely fell off recently, but they're still a good team. Let's move on to number 15. We have number 15. No, I'm just kidding. Number 15, we have a guy, a lone star, another lone star on a good Mavericks team. He doesn't need any introduction. He's had one of the best starts to his career in recent NBA history. Luka Doncic. 25, 8, and 7. Do I really have to say anymore? He's a top 30 most efficient player in the league. He's a top 15 scorer, a top 30 rebounder, a top 10 passer. He's really good. And, obviously Porzingis is pretty disappointing this year, but Luka Doncic has really helped. They're playing a damn good Nuggets team tonight, so a team that's better than their team, honestly. And let's see if Luka can play. I mean, 2 foreign players, Luka and Nikola playing, that'll be fun. Anyways, moving in at number 14, he is actually on my fantasy team. And he's on a good Lakers team. He's not the best by far. He's not the best player on the Lakers, but he is really good. He's playing like an all-star. We have Russell Westbrook. You know, he's a top 5 passer, a top 25 rebounder, a top 35 scorer. He's not the most efficient, but the Lakers are 8-6. They're still considered a good NBA team without LeBron. LeBron's going to be hurt for weeks to come, I believe, and the Lakers are still maintaining a good season. We'll talk about a big reason why they're doing that soon here. But, I mean, the last game, Russell had 14, 11, 7, and he had plus 11 plus minus. And obviously the Spurs aren't the best team in the NBA, but I mean that's a great one. That's a good win in my books, honestly. So let's move on. We have next at number 13. He plays for the Clippers. Obviously, he's pretty much that lone star for the Clippers. Let's be real. They just came off a loss to the Bulls, but I would still say these Clippers mean business. We have Paul George. Top 5 scorer in the league, top 35 rebounder and passer in the league, top 25 efficient player. Last game he had 27, 11, and 4 with a -3 plus minus. They lost by 10, but I mean, every time they lose, you know, Paul George does his best. And I mean, for not having Kawhi, this Clippers team's really good. They're able to win games when they need to, and I like that. I'm rooting for Paul George. I like Paul George. I'm not a Paul George hater. I know people in the past have been Paul George haters, but I'm definitely rooting for him. So yeah. Anyways, at number 12, there's another guy on my fantasy team who has shocked the world this year. I mean, he really has. He's playing at a very, very high level. One of the worst teams in the league, but this guy's playing at a high level. It's Jonas Valanciunas. He's a top 20 efficient player. He's a top 5 rebounder. He's a top 30 scorer. He's not a very good passer, obviously, but yeah, he's putting up good numbers this year. He's having a breakout year. I feel like he could definitely be a most improved candidate if he wanted to. I have a lot of confidence in this guy. He's on my fantasy team. He hardly ever disappoints. He's on a bad Pelicans team, but just know he's an all-star. I don't care. Without Zion, without Brandon Ingram some of the time, he has put up some of the best numbers from a big in the league. He honestly is a top 5 big in the league. So with that being said, let's move on to number 11. This guy's had a pretty good week. Kind of a fall off. He is on a pretty bad Hawks team, which I'm very disappointed. He is a lone star, just as Jonas Valanciunas was, by the way. He is pretty much a lone star on this Atlanta Hawks team. Hopefully they get the easy wins tonight. They've had some pretty tough games. They just got off a win against Milwaukee, which I'm proud of. It is Trae Young. A top 10 scorer, a top 5 passer, top 10 most efficient player. Obviously, he's not going to grab boards, but last game he had 42, 8, and 10. Nearly a triple-double, which is crazy to say for Trae Young. Obviously, he didn't need like 20, like, he only really needed like 23 points, but I mean, why not? He was efficient 3-point wise. He had a plus 12 plus minus. Yeah, shout out to Trae Young. He had another great week. He's definitely an all-star. Moving on to number 10. This guy has been in the top 10 numerous times throughout the year. His team is definitely faltering a little bit. He's on a pretty bad Memphis Grizzlies team, but I can see them coming back. They got an easy win pretty much tonight in the Houston Rockets. Hopefully they pull it off. And I mean, they'll be average then, but steadily, he's getting better and better throughout the year. It is Ja Morant, a top 5 scorer, a top 10 passer, top 55 rebounder, which is crazy, a top 15 most efficient player in the league. Again, like I said, he's got an easy win against the Rockets. These top 10 players are elite. They're MVP candidates, and Ja Morant is definitely one to be in that conversation. I'm proud of what he's doing. I'm definitely proud of what he's doing. You know, he's definitely proving he's going to be better than Zion. People doubted that at first, but you know, Ja is here to stay. If you're a Ja hater, too bad. Going even further into the top 10 at number 9, man, the Nets got some good players. They got two really good players, which isn't surprising. They're taking off. They're taking off this season. You know, and this is the second man in command. We have James Harden, a top 5 passer in the league, a top 40 rebound board grabber, a top 35 scorer, a top 35 most efficient player. I mean, 19, 7, and 9 is a pretty good average. I mean, for his role on the team, you know, he's not going to be the number one scorer. That's Kevin Durant's job. This is going to be a good game tonight, or tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. It's going to be a good game tomorrow against the Golden State Warriors, two titans in the NBA right now. And I'm really excited to see how James Harden does in that game. But yeah, not much else to say. The Nets are really good. Let's move on. As expected, though. Let's see. Number 8 doesn't seem to have someone in this spot. Where's DeJounte Murray ranking-wise? I know he's on here somewhere. I think it's DeJounte. Let's just talk about DeJounte Murray. Or maybe I talked about PG in the wrong spot, but let's just talk about DeJounte Murray. I think I switched him in PG. That's my bad, but let's talk about DeJounte Murray. Came off of a loss. He had 22, 10, and 10, a triple-double. He's still on a pretty bad Spurs team, but he's playing like an all-star this year. He's a top 40 scorer. He's a top 40 rebounder, a top 10 passer, a top 40 most efficient. Not much you can ask. I think Paul George is 8, and I think DeJounte Murray is wherever. I think I messed up there. I don't know necessarily how I did that, but, you know, we'll carry on. We'll keep the consistency up for the video. Let's move on to number 7. We have, oh my gosh, let's talk about the Hornets. The Hornets have been killer this year. They just have been killer Hornets, I guess you could call it. They're now a good team. I'm going to consider them a good team. They just came off of a win against the previously 11-1 Warriors. They gave the Warriors only their second loss of the year. So yeah, the second in command right now is Miles Bridges. You know, he's a top 25 scorer, a top 45 rebounder, a top 60 passer. He's top 45 in efficiency, but he's doing good. He's a really good scorer. I wouldn't say he's the best player on the Hornets. I mean, although at one point he was, but he's leading them to a pretty good season so far. I would say the Hornets are having a good season. A lot of young guys, a lot of development that's coming years here. Yeah, pretty proud of what he's doing. I really want his jersey. I really think he's one of the most entertaining players to watch in the league right now. Next, coming in at number 6, he is who everyone says is the MVP, but I don't know. Numbers would say otherwise. He is on a very dominant team. He is on that Warriors team, of course. And obviously he's the lone star. No Klay Thompson and a Draymond Green that can't take a superstar role. So no hate to Draymond, but that's just how it is. We have Steph Curry, which he's not the MVP right now. I'm sorry to say that. But I mean, he's a top 5 scorer, a top 60 board grabber, a top 15 passer, and a top 10 most efficient player. It's Steph Curry. I mean, they're playing the Nets again. Like I said, he's on a really good team, and he can really prove himself to move up a couple of spots on this list if he has a good game against the Nets. If he outperforms KD, especially, who we're actually going to get into here in a little bit. I don't know how long that's going to be, but he's definitely better than Curry right now. I'm going to say that with a straight face too. LaMelo. Next is LaMelo. Sorry, I should have gave him an introduction, but we're not going to talk about the team. We already kind of did that. LaMelo Ball, top 35 scorer, top 45 board grabber, top 15 passer, top 30 most efficient. In a couple days here, they're going to be playing a good Washington Wizards team, so let's see how he can do there. He's playing better than Curry right now. Like, I'm going to be honest. Curry is really, really damn good. But LaMelo Ball, overall, like, consistent-wise, like, across the board, passing, rebounding, da-da-da-da-da, LaMelo Ball is playing at a very high level. He is the best player on the Charlotte Hornets right now. I mean, it's been doubted before, you know. Miles Turner's had a really good year. definitely been doubted. So, yeah. LaMelo Ball is here to stay again. He's a second-year guy. He's better than Anthony Edwards by far now, and you guys can't argue that much. But anyways, we're coming into the top five. Obviously, he was fifth there, but going even further down, we have a guy from a really good Nuggets team. He's been hurt a couple of times this year, but I mean, without Jamal Murray, he has to go even harder than he usually does. It's freaking Jokic. I mean, Jokic is a beast. He's still playing at an MVP level. He's not the MVP in the league right now. He's still playing at that level. He's the most efficient player in the NBA, and I believe he's going to be the most efficient player in the NBA for a while. He is that lone star on the Nuggets. He's a top 10 scorer, a top 5 rebounder, a top 20 passer. I mean, dude's top 20 in everything. You can't hate on him. Oh, he's unathletic. He's not even like fun to watch or anything. He gets the job done. He's on a 9-4 Nuggets team who's had injuries with MPJ, Jamal Murray, Will Barton, Will the Thrill having a great year, by the way. When we talk about him, he's on my team. He's having a good year. Yeah, Jokic is that guy. Let's move on to number 3. These are top 3. These are the nominees for MVP right now. Like if there were nominees, this would be it. Starting at number 3, we have the best player on the Nets. No questions asked. It is his team. It is Kevin Durant. I mean, I don't really think I need much of an introduction. He's one of the best scorers of all time. He's the best scorer in the league right now. He is a top 30 rebounder, a top 35 passer, and second in efficiency behind Jokic, who we just talked about. And again, like I said, the Golden State Warriors game is coming up. 3 top 10 NBA players are playing in that game, so you guys do not want to miss that. That's one of the most don't miss games of the entire year. It's going to be one of the best games of the year. I truly believe that. And Kevin Durant, we'll see who's better between Kevin Durant and Curry. I mean, I would say the Warriors have a slightly better team right now, but we'll see. That's all I got to say for KD. Moving on to Giannis. Sorry, why didn't I give him an introduction? He's on a bad team. I'm gonna say that the Bucks are bad this year. They're battling injuries, so I'm not gonna give them the benefit of the doubt because plain and simple, they're a bad team. But what I will say is Giannis is still playing at an MVP level. He's not the MVP right now, but he's still playing at an MVP level. He's a top 5 most efficient player, a top 20 passer. That is something that is super overlooked. He has 6 assists a game. He is a top 10 rebounder, a top 5 scorer, like a top 3 scorer, really. I mean, they're playing the Lakers here in a couple days. That's going to be a really big prover. He's trying to prove his point for MVP. He's going against a guy we are going to mention up next. So, although the Bucks are a bad team, Giannis is just that dude. He's still playing at a very high level. Yeah, let's just move on. From there, we have ourselves the MVP of the league right now. This is the number 1 best player of the league. This is as good as you're going to get. The unibrow. The freaking unibrow. Leading the Lakers to an 8-6 record without LeBron James. Man. Transactions. Okay, that's for my fantasy team. Never mind that. It doesn't pop up on my computer, but I was just looking at my phone. Anthony freaking Davis. I mean, do we have to talk about him? He does everything. He does just about everything except passing. He grabs boards. He passes the ball. He plays efficiently. He is a good defender. He's a top 15 scorer, a top 10 rebounder, a top 10 most efficient player. There's not much else to say. Anthony Davis is playing amazing tonight. They got the Bulls. This is going to be a big game for AD and the Lakers. You know, that's going to be a game I'm definitely going to be looking forward to. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my top 25 players. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like this new format? I kind of went faster, kind of talked about each player for about a minute or so. Yeah, I kind of like that format. We'll do this every week. We'll do top 25 power rankings every single week to go over. To just go over the best players in the league, and it's fun to do. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Coming up, right up next, we have Kanye West, Donda Deluxe. We are going to be reacting to that. That'll be about a half-hour stream. Tune in. I'm really excited to listen to some new Kanye music. We've been blessed this year with 32 new Kanye songs, 5 added with the Deluxe. Yeah. So I have to say, have a good rest of your day. I will also, for you NFL heads, I will be seeing you guys tonight for the weekly